And tonight I'm going to read a little more from Nectar of Instruction, text 2. Atyāhāraḥ prayāsaś prajalpo niyamāgrahaḥ jana-saṅgaś laulyaṁ ṣaḍbhir bhaktir vinaśyati. I can hardly see. This light is not very good. Yeah, because I'm going to need better light when we're doing Vishnu Sahasranam. Translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Overendeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of devotional service. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working whimsically or independently. Somebody put that light in a different... That's better. That's much better. 5. Associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. So we often see that a devotee will get all passionate about some mundane achievement. Like, oh, I really need to learn Sanskrit. And then they go off for 2 or 3 weeks madly studying Sanskrit. And then they fall down on their rounds, or they break the regulative principles, and then you don't see them for a couple of days. And they say, hey, what happened to so-and-so? You know? Well, what happened is that they over-endeavored. They, instead of simply following a regulated routine of devotional service, they got all caught up in the mode of passion, and they went off over-endeavoring for some difficult, mundane achievement. Well, you might say, well, how come studying Sanskrit, that's not mundane, that's transcendental, right? Well, it's mundane if you're doing it for your own personal name and fame. See? Devotees think, well, I want to be known as the great scholar. I want to be like the big authority around here. So I'll study Sanskrit and then start quoting all these shlokas and like, oh, I'll be the big cheese, you know, big cheese in the ashram. Yeah. But that's not how it works. Krishna knows. Krishna's in your heart. If by studying Sanskrit, you're able to perceive the finer, deeper meanings in the shlokas and the prayers of the advanced devotees, and in this way enhance your devotional service, then Krishna will support it very nicely. But if your motive for studying Sanskrit is simply personal name and fame, power or prestige, then Krishna won't support it, and you won't be able to keep on the path. We've seen this so many times. Or somebody will think, oh, I want to do more service, better service than anybody else. And so they'll get on this big passionate trip, you know, and they'll over-endeavor. And what happens? They fall down, and then they lose their taste for devotional service. They can even lose their taste for the holy name, which is tragic. Because this is a kind of offense, you see. What one is doing is spending a lot of energy that could be used to serve Krishna and please Krishna, but trying to please his own false ego, his own sense of self-importance instead. So we see a lot of devotees do this, especially in the early stages, neophyte stages of devotional service. Well, what's the cure? You come up with a regulated system of daily service, and you stick to it, and you don't deviate from it. You don't take on any additional service that you can't sustain. The trick is, that's the dog. You take on just enough service that you're fully engaged, but not too much service so that you're over-engaged. You leave enough time for rest, enough time for relaxation, or whatever you need to keep your service steady. This is very important. Otherwise, you won't be able to maintain. You won't be able to sustain. This is a marathon. This is a long-distance run. And the key, if anybody has ever done any running, the key to doing a marathon is to establish a pace and stick to it. But if your pace is too fast, you won't make it. You won't be able to get through the whole race. You'll fall. You'll have to stop and rest. And if your pace is too slow, well, then you're not really living up to your personal potential. You see? So you have to find the right pace for yourself. You know, it's nice if you can chant 64 rounds. It's wonderful if you can chant 64 rounds. But not everybody can do that. Realistically. You know, we have to be practical. We have to be realistic. And find a standard of devotional service that we can maintain. Even if it's only chanting 8 rounds a day. If that's what you can do and remain steady, then that's what you should do. Now, that said, one should also be progressive. And within that amount of service that one can perform, easily, repeatably, steadily, day after day, month after month, you should constantly strive to increase the quality of that service. You see? A little bit of service done at a very high quality is much more pleasing to Krishna than a lot of service that's just done any old way. Hurry up, slipshod, low quality. It's not the quantity of service that we do, it's the quality. Our material conditioning fixes us up or presets us to measure things, measure the value of things in terms of quantity. If I make $200,000 next year, that's better than if I make $100,000 like I did this year. So we're trained up to think like that. We're conditioned like that. But what's the use of making $200,000 a year if you're miserable? If you wear yourself out doing it? What's the point of it? You can't enjoy it. So we're saying, do the amount of service that you can do and still maintain good consciousness. And Krishna will be far more pleased than if you do lots and lots of service, but it's in terrible state of consciousness. So be careful. Another thing is, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Now, why would somebody do that? Politics. I follow the rules and regulations strictly, and you don't. And so they get to, this is when there's a mood or a established standard of fundamentalism in a spiritual group. When they think, wrongly by the way, that the measure of your devotional service is simply by how well you follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures. Certainly the rules and regulations of the scriptures are important, but they're not all important. You don't get, like Srila Prabhupada one time said, this is not the International Society for Rules and Regulations. What it means is that we follow the rules and regulations, again, to our ability to perform them regularly, steadily, comfortably, to sustain them for a long period of time. If you can't do that, if you find yourself getting burned out, you have to slack off. Or it's another kind of overendeavor. But this is really specifically what they're talking about here or what Rupa Goswami is talking about here, is a person who is simply a devotee in a formal way, and they're not really in their heart. See, they don't really love Krishna. They're trying to one-up somebody else and show that, oh, I'm stricter than you, I can chant more rounds than you, I can follow more rules and regs. There's a mantra for opening the door, a mantra for walking down the street, a mantra for waking up, a mantra for going to the bathroom, and I know all of them. Well, see what kind of mentality that is. It's not very devotional, really, is it? He's not coming from love. He's coming from competitiveness, wanting to put other people down, other devotees. And Krishna doesn't like that very much. He's not very pleased by that. So we should avoid that mentality and practice the rules.